Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Peter Gunville. I'm out here in my outdoor shop. I'm out here in the heart of British Columbia, out here in the Tŝilhqot'in mountains, coast mountains. Looking like winter out here, but it doesn't really feel like it. It's not quite freezing out. Lake's not frozen over, but anyways, see that bench there in the background? That's what I'm doing. Had a short piece of fir. I milled it up. It's been sitting for about a year and a half, so you can see some of it's already starting to dry out here. After I let it sit for, it kind of got wet a little bit this morning, but after I let it sit for a few days, it should have most of the moisture content out. Like I said, it's been sitting for a while, so it has aged. Being a bit cold out here too, building it like this probably help it from getting checked up so bad, right? But that's what I'm doing right now. I don't have a shop set up out here. I'm living off grid, so I'm just doing some little projects up here. I sold a bunch at a craft sale. I had them made out of pine, right? Some nice dry pine. These ones are a little bit different, but this fir, I just want to see how this fir is going to hold up, so I'm going to build a few of these, a couple more of these benches, probably do a little bit out of some dry poplar that I have. And so let me begin here. What I did is I had a short plank here, probably around 5 feet. So I went with 28 inches. I put a center line from here to here, drew my lines, and then on the next piece I'll have to center line that out and the same one. I found it wasn't very good if I went from one end to the other end with my center line. Makes it faster for me cutting and figuring out my lines like this. But center right here, because it's got a bit of a curve in it, you might only have 3 inches on one side and 4 on the other side. So if I have to adjust my center lines, then it makes me adjust my my end cuts too, because they have to be square to the center line. I just took my framing square and I framed these across. So right now I've got to, well, I have to cut these out, right? So I'm just going to make that cut on this one here. I just got a few basic hand tools out right now for what I need. I'm not going to be attaching these. I just want these when I build them. Like everything's just sitting on that one just loose right now. I have it dadoed into the top. But once I give it a couple more days, I'll stack it with some slickers a little bit. I'll let it just let it air dry for a few days, and then I'll be able to hit it with the sander and yeah, be able to fasten it all up. I'm just using screws, right? You know what, in the long run, when it comes down to it, I sold some already. They look quite attractive, right? And that's all I did, was just attach everything with screws, right? I could do plugs. I could plug it and all that, right? Like pre-drill hole, screw it, plug it, cap it. It's a lot of extra work that I find that's really doesn't really take away from beauty of the wood that much, right? Compared to how much more effort I put into it to what I'm asking for these chairs, right? I'm not asking a fortune for these, right? For these little benches. So I'm not gonna put a bunch more work, right? Because then you gotta try to compensate you for that extra work that you do. And at the end of the day, people just want a cool looking bench to sit down on. right? This is bushcraft here, right? You know, eventually I'll have myself situated with the shop, right? My trailer right now, it's got all the posts up, right, and the beams. I just got a frame over top of that, and then I'm going to be starting that here in the new year. And then get that all going, and then I'll have an area to work that's covered, and then I'm going to be starting on digging my house in the springtime. Yeah, doing those end cuts is kind of a little bit, you just got to make sure your saw isn't rocking too much. Preferably don't like to do those cuts, right? Make it more accurate with the skill, so it would have been best to cut it on the other side, but since this is my top, I wanted to work off of this center line instead of trying to, I guess I could have transferred the line across and cut it, right? But it's just a few more processes, right, that are unnecessary for this application. So that's done, and then now I need to make two legs out of this piece here, right? So just let me see here. So these legs here, I want the long side here. Like you can see some of this stuff after it's been sitting, right? It's not, you can see a little bit moisture in some of this stuff here. It's dry. It's probably, I don't know, probably over 70. It's probably still sitting at about 30% moisture content, I would guess. Well, maybe not. I'm not 100% too sure. Probably not 30%, because what's ideal? 12? Maybe it's sitting at 20. Who knows? I'm not an expert when it comes to that. So let me see here. I got two legs to cut. This side here is going to be my long point measurement. So that's got to be cut on an angle there. I have 34. So I'll make these like 16 inches long, each of them. So if I've got 16 here, it's my 16 here. I've got to figure out my center line right around here. So about 4 5/8. This center line will work for the other side too. And right here, I'm sitting at about 10 1/4, so 5 1/8. I'll do my center line down here. I'm sitting at about 9 1/4, so I'll make that one 4 5/8. So this first one, I'll just join this first one up here like so. And I use this center line here because I doubt this is it's pretty close to my cut, but it's out by about a 1/16 of being flush with the end there. So I will be cutting backwards on this piece here. So I'll just re-square this line up again. So I have the base, I just need two legs, so that's one cut. Then I need 16 inches. So there's 16 right there. I'll come over here. Yeah, there's that wind again. It sure doesn't take long for this country to dry out, especially when it's above zero. It's above zero. Like I went down to the lake and there's a few spots down there that are pretty soft. I walked around a little bit along the edge of the shoreline and I was breaking through the ice, but it's usually a bit thinner there anyways because of the rocks. Low water, the rocks. Okay, my saw's already set at 15 degrees. Made that cut. Gonna make another cut here. Okay, that's not quite touching there, right? That's still a little bit looser. So if I make this cut, it's not gonna pinch on me. That's a long point to short point cut. Okay, that's one long point, short point measurement, 15 degrees. So now I have this other piece here that I want to right here. I have, what do I got there? I got 9.5. 9.25. Yeah, this will be the top here. This will be the top. It's already got the right angle on it, but I don't think it's I don't think it'll be square to these center lines. See, it's out by about 1/8. That's the only thing when you're using live edge. Your edges vary, so you have to chase your center lines from cut to cut. If you don't, then your boards, when you put them in there, when you do your legs might seem a little bit off kilter, right? They just might, it'll just be a visual appearance, right, that some people might not like. Okay. So that's a long point measurement there. Now I need 16 inches. I got 16 right here. This is going to be a short point measurement. I usually like to bring my square by when I go to mark. And I'm looking at the inside line here, as well as the line, my line for this way. That way, when I mark this, I'm marking it 2 inches past my line. It just gives me more of a straight edge when I put my square back on this again to just finish my layout of my line. It just gives me a little bit extra. Like the longer your marks are, when you match it up, the more accurate you're going to be. If you only have a short line that's this long and you're trying to line it up for over a foot, then you could still be on your line, but if you're off by like a 32nd, by the time you times 32nd by 4, right, you could be up to an 1/8 by the time you get up to the top, and then you won't be square to your dealings. Okay, so this was the long point measurement. Man, that Diablo blade is out of Milwaukee. I guess that's probably a Milwaukee, right? But I think it's a Diablo, right? Sure is a nice cutting blade. I've used these blades lots. Same with the DeWalt blades, right? These ones are a little bit nicer than the DeWalt ones. But when you're cutting, as long as you're cutting like one piece of plywood, doing one rip, even if you're doing a fairly deep rip, I noticed if you're trying to rip like 3 pieces of plywood right off a pile, even with a corded saw, they got too fine a saw curve. They're too thin, these saw blades. They'll start heating up, and then your blade gets warped. Try to power through, but not a good idea. Now I have these cut here. Like I said, this is going to be the top. Okay, so you can see the moisture is just about out of this piece of wood here, right? And then what I'll also do too, so I want to put this upside down because this, like the way these angles are here, this is my seat right here. So these have to be notched into the bottom here. So I have to take a look. And what I'm looking for here, well, this piece is perfect. What I'm looking for is that is that the insides line up, right? The insides line up like that. So that looks pretty good. Right, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I know what my mark is. It's about 4 3/4. Like this measurement right. This measurement right from here to here on the angle, it's about 4 3/4. So I like to set this back about 4 3/4. Just so if you're walking by the bench and you're doing a tight corner around the top of the bench, you're not going to snag your toe on the bottom of this. Because if I put this like this, and you know there's a bit of a fulcrum point here, mind you, right? If somebody was standing right at the very end, well, I don't know why they would be, but if they want to do that, it's just a liability to themselves. But if I put this right at the end here, this sticks out past the top of the bench by about 2 inches. And I just know how things are. When they stick out past the top of something, that's where you can snag your toe. I don't know if that's a good rule to follow, but for myself, just seems like you can see right here, right? It just seems like a good common sense rule, right? You can see that that's back. So if you're walking around this bench, you're less likely to stub your toe. But if you were to stand on this bench and stand on this, I still don't think you'd be able to teeter it up. It's not in so far where it's going to teeter on you, right? It could be more out to the end there, but just one of those decisions you got to make, right? Okay, so enough about that. Let's get on to I don't have my center lines here no more to go off of, right? So I'm gonna create my own center lines again. So I'm about 5 1/4 here for center line, and 4 3/4. So I'm about 5 3/8. That's my center line. I need that to lay out for my legs, right? I want everything kind of squared to the center lines on this. I've got lines on these things, right? That's why, like that one there hasn't been screwed together yet. I can just set that one down for underneath. Underneath, I got a plastic tarp over here. I can put everything underneath that plastic, right? And then I can just let it air dry for a couple days. Which I already done that to some of this stuff, and it sands up fine, right? It doesn't plug my sandpaper up, so I know it doesn't have that much moisture content in it. So then I'll come over here, come over 4 1/2, I guess. Then 4 1/2 will be the outside. Put my mark across here. And then because this wood comes out of the sawmill, it should be fairly dimensional, but once in a while you'll get some pieces that won't be exactly 100% dimensional, because you might hit a knot, or maybe there's a little burr on one of the rails here because it's not a solid rail. I don't think there's really any burrs on the saw, because I would know. It's mainly if the blade's dull or whatever. But this go around, I think I got everything pretty good with what I was doing here. So I'll put this on. I'll put this on here. And then what I'll do is I'll scribe it. There's no cupping in this, really, maybe a tiny little bit of cupping. Then I'll mark this. And now this one can be cut out. Oh. Then I'll do the same thing for the other side right now while I'm laying stuff out here. So it's 4 1/2 inches. And then I'll square my line up to the center line. That's kind of nice to see. I got the big whiskey jacks back now, eh? The camp robbers. All year, the only birds I really had around here, other than robins and stuff, were the Clark's crow, but now I have the camp robbers back, and I'm telling you, they, I feed the chickens scraps, so they're in there not fighting the chickens, but they're in there. Yeah, I gotta see which pieces. Okay, that doesn't look too bad right there. Now I just got to cut these out here, so dado them a little bit. I like that. I like putting just a little bit of a dado in there. It really holds these little benches together a lot better, I guess you could say, than just doing it, just having them straight along the top and screwing them off like that. Like I've done lots of them like that, like job site things. Go grab a 2x12 or a 2x10 and make little job built benches like this all the time when I'm on a job site. If I don't have any benches or anything, sometimes you need one if you're doing some drywall or something and you're. So right now I want to set my saw here to about a 1/2 inch for that dado. That looks like about a 1/2 inch right there. Okay, so I got to come in at the same angle. I want to follow both my outside and then my inside line on this, right? You can see what I've got going on here. See, I've got these 2 lines, so I'll cut on the inside of both these lines here. Then I'll just chisel it out, so it'll look like that. Like I said, I got to clean up these edges here and stuff like that. That got wet a little bit this morning. This stuff is it's not real dry, but I think if I set it outside for a few days, right, and then I hit that with my torch. Hit it with my torch in a couple days, sand it down, fasten it all together, and then with the torch it boils that pitch inside, pushes the pitch out of any pitch pockets or anything, and it kind of bakes it. So it's one way of not worrying about your pitch leaking out on your stuff. remember when you trace, you still want to see your lines when you trace, right? If you cut over your lines, then you're gonna have a bunch of gappage that you probably don't want, right? So make sure, if you trace, and make sure you can still see your lines after you're done cutting. Yeah, that angle of this saw, it kind of feel a little bit of bite in the bicep there. Also, when you're doing these cuts, you gotta make sure you have an equal pressure on your whole table, or your base of your saw there on your material, right? So when you're coming out nice and straight, and when you're going in nice and straight. Biggest mistake people will make doing this is that they rock their saw a little bit, either at the back or at the beginning. And what that does is it, well, let me show you what it does. Like say if you're cutting in on that angle, and you rock your saw a little tiny bit, you can see, well, it's hard to see like if I showed you there, but I'm down my 1/2 inch here, but over here I'm probably down, 9/16 or so, right? It just doesn't, anytime, like if you're going into a piece of material, if you rock your blade a little bit, you're rocking it going down the hill, so it's almost, depending where your point is. That's not true. If you're before your pivot point, it doesn't really matter. But if you're out past your center line on your blade, and you go down a bit, then it pushes that line down on the side here just a little bit. So when you put something in there, you'll be able to see those little saw curves, because they'll be lower than what your material is. And if you make a mistake and you start chiseling in on those lines when you put your piece of material in, you'll have some gappage, and then you'll be like going, man, hacked it up again. And then you'll just be like, well, let's move on to the next piece. But you don't want to be like that, right? But yeah, I went to a craft fair, and I had a bunch of tables, a bunch of benches, some like burl bowls, paddles, and different things, right? First things I sold were the benches. Were these style of benches. Everybody liked them, and they're not real difficult to put together, right? But they sold out right away. I was asking $65 Canadian a bench, and they just went, right? The ladies liked them, right? They're not too big, not too bulky, handcrafted products, right? Yeah, the sugar strikes they're talking about, right? We haven't had sugar for like when we come out, we're out for a good 2-3 weeks, months at a time, right? Because we live off grid, and last 2 times we went in, we couldn't buy any sugar. Like there wasn't even stevia, right? And then, I was trying to find coffee creamer, no coffee creamer, no Rogers syrup, right? So, but it's sure good for the diet, anyways. Cut sugar out. Now they're going to do some down the states. They're passing a bill right now, right in the Senate, that they're putting a tax on cola. Any colas, any soft drinks, right? I would imagine there's more to come with that. Is this one? No, that was this one here, I think. Yeah, that one was this one here. And you can see that other one fit a lot more, didn't fit quite as tight as that one. I still have to take the bark and stuff off of that, right? But that's I just got to take that one out and figure out my my cross piece in there, and then I'm almost done that one. Okay, on the inside I've got 18 3/8 of an inch. 18 3/8. Since everything's on a 15-degree angle, I just got to make myself up a piece that's 18 inches and 3/8.